Welcome to the Utilizing Azure Route Servers with Cisco Secure Firewalls. This is a demonstration as part of the Cisco Secure Firewall in Azure video series. My name is Eric Coughlin, Technical Marketing Engineer for Cisco Systems. Hybrid Mesh Firewall is a new market category that focuses on unifying physical, virtual, cloud, and agent-based enforcement points to simplify outcomes such as microsegmentation, compensating controls, and agentic operations. The audience for this series is anyone who wants to better understand hybrid mesh firewall solutions. This includes network security practitioners who are looking to extend their skills into the cloud, and cloud practitioners who want to extend unified security across multi-cloud and hybrid cloud environments. And frankly, anyone who wants to have a better understanding of how the Cisco Secure Firewall is deployed in the public cloud. The objective of this particular demonstration is to show how Cisco Secure Firewalls can utilize Azure Route Servers. The prerequisites are a basic understanding of network technology and network security, at least for physical networks, and it is assumed that you have watched the 4 videos in the Cisco Secure Firewall for Azure video series: Fundamentals, Architecture, Routing, and Design. Or you'll need equivalent knowledge, which means quite substantial knowledge of Azure routing. The use case that we will use: site-to-site VPN. Connecting a remote site to 2 FTDs to form an active standby solution for connecting the remote site servers with the servers in the Azure environment. And use BGP to advertise the networks in the remote site to Azure and the networks in Azure to the remote site. The key addresses to keep in mind are that the remote site has sitters of the form 192.168.something.something, and there's a server in the remote site 192.168.1.100 that we'll use to test connectivity. There are 3 VNets. There's a service VNet, which serves as a hub, 10.100.0.0, a spoke VNet, 10.101.0.0, and an additional spoke, 10.102.0.0. Also of importance are the IP addresses on the inside interfaces of the firewalls that we will use for peering and routing: 10.100.100.81 and 82. And all of the IP addresses on the firewalls will have either an 81 or an 82 in them. Well, this will not be a demonstration of configuring site-to-site VPN. This has already been done prior to the video. But the only routing that has been done is a default route from the FTD out to the internet to establish those site-to-site VPNs. The hub-spoke architecture has already been deployed in Azure. We will deploy the route server, modify the VNet peerings to allow the spokes to utilize the route server, and confirm that the route table in the spokes are set up properly. We will then configure BGP and verify BGP route propagation. We will then demonstrate failover from the primary tunnel to the standby tunnel. So let's start by deploying the route server. In order to deploy a route server in the service VNet, we have to add a subnet to our service VNet. This is a subnet of a very particular type. Notice subnet purpose is route server. This automatically names it route server subnet, but we can specify the IPs we want to use for the subnet. All right, once we have that subnet, we can now deploy the route server on that subnet. So let's search for route server in the marketplace. We might as well use a minimum capacity for testing. And we're going to put it in the service sub VNet. Now, we don't really need public IP, but that can be useful for some applications of route servers. Now, it will take a while for the route server to be completely provisioned. As you can see, right now we don't know what the IP addresses are to peer with, so we have to wait a few minutes. Let's now modify the VNet peerings to allow the subnets to utilize the route server. Let's go back to the resource group. And look at the service VNet. We, of course, have peerings to the spokes configured already, but we have to modify them. In particular, we have to allow the route server to be used by the spokes. From the point of view of the service VPC, this is allowing traffic to be forwarded to the spokes. But we also have to look at this from the point of view of the spokes. From the spokes point of view, this is allowing the spoke to use the route server. The route table by default should allow propagation, but or if you don't have a route table, there will be propagation. But it's probably good to check the configuration. Notice that we clearly have to have this set to yes to have the integration with the route server work. Now let's configure BGP. Let's start by getting this information about the route server, the IP addresses, and the ASN, and we'll go to the FTDs and we'll configure routing. Now, it's always good to have a static route to get to the BGP peer if it's in a remote network. So we will create an object for the route server, and then we will set up a static route to the route server VNet through the inside interface of the firewall. The first hop is always the first IP address on the subnet when you're working in Azure. As far as BGP is concerned, we have BGP configured. We'll note the ASN, and there's our remote site, but we want to now add the route server. Now remember the route server 10.100.0.4 with the ASN of 65.515. We enable the address, and because it's a different subnet, we have to have eBGP multi-hop with at least 2 hops. Let's do the same for the second peer in the route server. Enable the address. Set the eBGP multi-hop to 2. And we're done. Now, for the secondary, we are going to utilize an existing route map. This route map matches everything and will set clause will prepend an AS to the AS path, making this a less desirable BGP peer. And that is our FTD 82. So when we look at the routing on that, it's going to be very similar. We're going to set up a static route. to the route server subnet with the same gateway. Then we're going to see that we're the same AS. We're going to set up the neighbors in a similar manner. It's important that the multi-hop be set to 2. But we have to do the route filtering using the route map. Now, it doesn't really filter routes. It prepends the AS to the route, making this a less desirable path. We deploy the changes. And let's configure the peers on the route server. So we're going to add FTP 81. That was ASN 65501, IP address ending in 81. And now we're going to do FTD 82. And it looks like it's provisioned 81, 82. Sometimes you have to wait a couple minutes. Sometimes you have to refresh the page. There we go. We provisioned BGP on the route server and on FTDs. Now let's verify propagation of the routes. Now we could log into the FTDs to run some commands, but what's really nice about the FMC is that it has a built-in CLI for the FTDs. So notice we can run these CLI commands. Let's start with our remote site, see if we learned our routes. It looks like it's peered up to those 81 and 82. That's great. But did it learn the routes? Yeah, there they are. There are the VNets that it learned, and there are the routes that it's advertised. And we can see that it took the shorter path length, 81, and put those into the route table. So good. Remote site looks good. Let's look at either one of the FTDs in Azure. It looks like it's peered up to the remote site and to the 2 route server peers. It looks like, of course, it learned all the routes from the peers and also from the remote site, so that's all good to go. And we can even look at the route table to confirm that we have routes to the VNets in Azure. These have been learned from the route server. Now, what about running commands in Azure to figure out what's going on? Well, let's use the Azure CLI. And here we can actually list our route servers. We don't get really good information if we use table format. So you might want to use JSON to list your route servers. There, for example, you'll be able to see the virtual route IPs, which are the peers for BGP. We can also list the peers that we see FTD 8182, and we can look at the advertised routes and the learned routes, in this case from 81. But it looks funny, it's empty. That's because table doesn't have good output. We need JSON, which is the complete output for those commands. And we'll see that the advertised routes are, in fact, the 3 VNets. So that looks good. And the learned routes from FTD 81 are those sitters from the remote site. Great. Now, if instead of 81 we did 82, we would get the same sitters but with these longer ASN path lengths, and therefore they are less desirable. If we look at the effective routing on one of our servers, doesn't matter which one, I just grabbed a web server, then you can actually see that we learned those routes and we're pointing to .81, which is the preferred FTD. Now let's demonstrate failover. Here are two FTDs, and we're going to get into the consoles of these FTDs and look at some real-time packet captures. This will give us sort of a dramatic way of seeing the failover. So let's get into the serial consoles. Get into the diagnostic CLI, so we have the full range of packet capture commands, including the real-time packet capture. Do this for both, and you actually are seeing the BGP conversation between the FTDs and the route server. Okay, let's start some traffic. We should be going to 81 with any traffic that's going to the remote site. So let's start a ping to a server in the remote site. If we look at the real-time packet captures, we can see that the pings are, as expected, going through 81. Let's reload FTD 81. Let's skip forward about 30 seconds. Now, the BGP relationships already exist between 82 and the route server, so it's not a matter of BGP taking a long time. It's the routes within Azure taking time to converge. There we go. It converged. It took a total of 43 seconds. And yes, we are now using the other FTD. Let's see what happens when we fail back. Might as well get a packet capture going while we're waiting. Again, BGP converges very quickly, but Azure routing does not. That's why we're still sending packets to FTD 82. But eventually, it falls back to FTD 81. You'll notice we didn't lose any packets that time. We just simply were sending packets to the standby FTD longer than might have been expected. If we look at the effective routes, we'll see that the routing has failed back to 81. And that concludes our demonstration. Thank you very much for your time.